All right, guys, so we've talked about my likes. We've talked about the things I'm not totally in love with. Hi everybody and welcome to today's video. My name is Matt and this is What Matters to Matt. And on today's video, I finally get to sit down and talk to you about my review of the Asics Gel-Nimbus 25. Over the last couple of weeks, I've been away on vacation with the family and I took the Nimbus to do the bulk of my running while I was on that trip for some easy runs, recovery runs, long runs. Even did a little bit of up-tempo work in this shoe. Yes, if you have to, you can do some tempo work in the Nimbus. I even took this on a long run on a treadmill, which is saying something because I am not the biggest fan of treadmills. So today we're going to go over just what kind of a hole I feel like this shoe fills in my shoe rotation. Then we're going to talk about some of the likes, some of the dislikes. Finally, we're going to get into whether I feel like the Asics Nimbus 25 was worth my hard-earned cash. And speaking of hard-earned cash, let's get that disclaimer out of the way. Asics did not send me this shoe. They're not telling me what to say during this video. They're not going to get the chance to review this video before you see it here on YouTube. All of my thoughts and opinions that you get in this review are my own. All right, so what kind of a hole do I have to fill in my rotation when I bought the Nimbus 25? Well, quite simply, it was left when I finally decided to retire the Saucony Triumph 20. I use this shoe for easy days, recovery days, even long runs, and it works its way into being my daily trainer for a lot of my runs. I was able to put a little bit over 6,000 miles or 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles or 1,000 kilometers in this shoe. I'll put a link to that video up top and down below in the description if you want to see that. By the way, if you haven't seen that video, it probably means that you're not subscribed to my channel. If you're getting value out of this video, please consider subscribing. But let's have a closer look at the Nimbus 25. I want to go over my likes and my dislikes, starting with the number one like of this shoe, and that is the comfort of this upper. Now, oftentimes when we talk about comfort of a shoe, we're talking about that midsole, especially something with this much stack height, but really it all starts with the upper. When I went into the running shoe store and slipped my foot into this shoe, I was immediately taken aback by just how comfortable this upper is. Asics has a knit upper that's got a little bit of give here. They've got that stretchy tongue that we've seen on a couple of different Asics shoes already. They got quite a bit of padding back here around the heel. They've got some good structure back here in the heel collar. Got really good lockdown, fits true to size, just enough room up here in the toe box for my foot and my toes to really splay really nicely. And the one thing with all that, with that knit upper that I want to mention is that the lockdown was good enough in this shoe that at no time did I feel like I was slipping off the platform. And I say that because sometimes when we talk about a stretchy knit upper and something that's got a little bit of give, that your foot can kind of feel like it's falling off the platform when you go around turns, especially with something with this kind of stack height. Didn't get that feeling at all. So number one, in terms of things that I am in love with the Nimbus 25, is the comfort of this upper. So the number two thing that I'm in love with this shoe is the protection in that midsole. Asics is using the FF Blast Plus Eco for this midsole. We've got 41.5 millimeters in the heel, 33.5 millimeters in the forefoot for an 8 millimeter drop. And when I talk about protection with this midsole, I'm not talking about it being overly squishy. I know Asics mentions that this is the most comfortable shoe of all time, but really it's not like super squishy, super soft. It is kind of cloud-like, like they say, but you don't feel like you're sinking way down into that midsole. But what that means is it's offering tons of protection. At no point do you feel like you're ever bottoming out. And if you're somebody who likes a little bit of ground contact, you're never going to get this in this shoe. I don't care how many miles you put into it. There's going to be no ground contact with this at all. So tons and tons of protection for those recovery runs, easy runs, and even those long runs. So number two things I love about the Nimbus 25 is definitely the protection that we get from that midsole. And the number three thing when it comes to what I love about the Nimbus 25 has to be the durability of the outsole. Asics is using the AHAR Plus rubber on the back of this outsole, and when I look at the heel, I tend to, when I'm doing a recovery run, kind of shuffle my feet quite a bit, and I can have some wear back here in the heel. Seeing very little wear on this shoe after 150 miles, and also the toe off here, very little wear, certainly not as much as I've seen in a number of different shoes. And one of the things that I was most impressed with, when I say that I took this when I was on vacation, I ran it on so many different surfaces, and some of those were crushed rock, roots and rocks and different things that are really going to gouge out some of that exposed midsole. And there's quite a bit here. The rubber coverage is great, but there is quite a bit of exposed midsole, and normally in a lot of shoes that kind of gets chewed up with all those rocks, and I haven't seen any of that. It's a little bit dirty, but other than it just being dirty, it's held up really well, and I'm confident to say that you're going to get a ton of miles out of the outsole on this shoe. So number 3 for me in terms of what I am really, really in love with the Nimbus 25 is the durability of that outsole. All right, so we've talked about the things that I love. Let's take a couple of minutes and talk about a couple of things. And really here I'm being a little bit nitpicky because I think it's important to go over some of the things that I think could be improved. And the number one thing that I'm not totally in love with is the weight of this shoe. Again, maybe I'm being overcritical here because when we talk about how a shoe company is going to reduce the weight in their shoe, we start talking about a little bit less padding around the heel collar, maybe a thinner upper, a little bit less rubber in the outsole, maybe just a little bit less in the midsole, all of these things that I just said that I love. But I have a size 13 foot, and so weight oftentimes can be a problem in running shoes for me, and I've got the scale here in front of me, and when I put the Nimbus 25 on this scale, I get 366 grams. I'll put the ounces up here on the screen. And when I put the Triumph 20 on this scale, I get 317 grams. So big difference in the weight between these two shoes. And when I first bought this, and I talked about one of the things I love being just how comfortable this was, I was so impressed that when I put this on in the shoe store, I wore this out of the shoe store, and the first run that I went on was a 26-kilometer run. That day, I wasn't feeling that well. It was really hot. But by the end of that run, I could feel the weight of this shoe, and it had me thinking, was this the right shoe for me? Part of the reason was that I feel like not only is the Saucony Triumph 20 a little bit lighter, but there's a little bit more energy return coming out of this Power Run Plus midsole that you have in the Triumph 20. But I said this wasn't going to be a direct comparison between these two shoes. By the way, I will do a full comparison of these two shoes in a future video, but for now, this is just for a little bit of reference. But weight was number one. When I'm on those long runs, I don't mind it so much on a recovery run or even an easy run, but on those longer runs, especially when I'm looking to pick up the pace a little bit, the weight kind of gets in the way in the Nimbus 25. All right, so number 2 is responsiveness, and I just mentioned that I felt like the Triumph 20 was a little bit more responsive than the Nimbus. Now, to be fair, again, critique that kind of goes against some of the things I love about this shoe. I said that I like the fact that it wasn't super squishy, that you didn't get a whole lot of ground feel, and that you didn't really sink into this and you didn't lose a lot of energy return in the things that I like. But also, that kind of means that you're not getting a lot of spring back when you actually run in this shoe. That firmness means that you're not sinking down that far into the midsole and you're not getting a lot of energy return, which again kind of lends itself to maybe feeling a little bit heavier on foot at times. So number 2 for me in things that I'm not in love with that I would like to see maybe changed in the new Nimbus 26 in the future is just the amount of energy return that we're getting from that midsole. And the third thing that I am not a huge fan of with the Nimbus 25 that I'm not in love with is actually the warm upper. And again, critiquing the things that I love, but the warm upper when I was out on a couple of those runs, when I was on vacation, we had some really hot days, and I really, really noticed that upper. When I got anything over 10 kilometers in this shoe, my foot really, really got warm, and I was missing some ventilation that I get out of some other running shoes that I have. So the warm upper is a little bit of a critique. Hopefully in their next iteration, they're going to be able to do something with this knit to make it a little bit more breathable and keep the comfort in the shoe. But my number 3 thing that I'm not totally in love with is that warm upper. All right, guys, so we've talked about my likes. We've talked about the things that I'm not totally in love with. How am I going to be using this shoe going forward? Well, absolutely, I think it's obvious for me this is going to be a recovery day, easy day shoe for me, the odd occasional long run. I don't think it's going to be as versatile as the Triumph 20, but it is going to fit nicely into my rotation. I'm going to continue to use it. I'm going to continue to rack up those miles. I do think this shoe was well worth my hard-earned cash. I am happy I made that purchase. $210 Canadian, which coincidentally was the same that the Triumph 20 was. That's it, guys. That's what I thought of the Nimbus 25. It's been a good shoe. It's done exactly what I thought it would do, and maybe even a little bit more. If you like this video, guys, please remember to hit that like button, subscribe to this channel if you're not subscribed. My name is Matt, and this is What Matters to Matt, and ultimately, what matters to me most is my family. I'll see you guys in the next video.
Step 1, wake up early, gonna rise with the sun. Step 2, get some food in you. Step 3, think real hard about what you wanna be. Step 4, everybody just do your thing.
Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be a good day. Wake up, today's gonna be